and I will try to make it quick and easy. The topic is self-explanatory. Basically, we're discussing issues facing our operators in this business. And I'm going to start by introducing our panelists. Mr. Ghassan Hamdan. Mr. Hamdan has a long experience in the field of aviation. He spent over 32 years with Royal Jordanian. His area of expertise includes corporate planning, marketing and sales, ground handling, catering, in-flight services. He knows the business very well. Mr. Hamdan was a board member and later CEO of Arab Wings, the first private aviation company in the Middle East. And he was the gentleman who established NAS in Saudi Arabia in the late 90s. And now currently he's the CEO of NASJet. Thank you for being with us on the panel.
Thank you.
Mr. Khalid Hadashi. Mr. Khalid started his career in the Director General of National Security in Morocco, where he spent, I believe, over 15 years. So you're an expert on security issues. He also was involved in facilities management, and in 2009 he started VIP jet ground handling. Mr. Hadashi is currently the chairman and CEO of VIP Jet Morocco. And lastly, we have Mr. Stewart, Josh. Mr. Stewart began his first 10 years, I believe, as a pilot in the Royal Air Force. And then later on, he went to fly on private airplanes or in general aviation in Africa and the Caribbean. In 2007, he founded XJet in Colorado. It's a private jet club with a unique business model, and where he's currently the CEO of XJet. Welcome to our panel. As I mentioned, this panel will discuss the various challenges that face the operators in the general aviation and business jet in the region in general, and maybe in North Africa and Morocco in specific. The first question that comes to mind from what we've seen in the past few years, we've seen some airlines getting into the business, such as Emirates, Qatar Airways, and various other airlines. And they're extending this service to augment their first class and business class clientele. What kind of a challenge does this pose to the conventional general aviation operator, since it cuts into the business? Maybe I can start with Mr. Hamdan, since you're the closest to such activities.
Thank you very much. Apologize, my voice is not very helpful, but I am not in the voice competition.
We won't ask you to sing, as you said.
Exactly. This is a new phenomena in the Middle East in particular, where scheduled airlines like Qatar Airways, even Saudiya, they have their own arm of business aviation. And although it looks in the first glance that this is a competition to the traditional business aviation companies, which is true, it takes part of the market share. However, I look at it in one hand in positive way. Why? Because I think the airlines in the region has a lot of resources, which unfortunately the private sector until now was not successful in introducing well-established private business aviation companies. We have so many business aviation companies in the region, but they are fragmented, relatively small resources. So having big airlines like Saudiya, like Qatar Airways, having their own business aviation. That is a good thing in the short term to introduce strong business aviation companies to the market with strong resources. However, I feel not only because I represent a private business aviation company and not part of a traditional airline, that this will not be very helpful in the long term. Because number one, it does not give the private sector to grow real business aviation companies, but because there are many other reasons. Number one is the commercial airlines are scheduled airlines. So their core business and their mindset is to serve scheduled services. Business aviation is not scheduled, it is unscheduled. So the people who are working there, they do not have the mindset to offer or to give the business aviation a strong service quality. This is number one. Number two, with their resources, unlimited resources of the big airlines, they will not give the chance to the private sector to invest and grow real business aviation companies. So in the long term, this will be a serious issue. Therefore, I worked in Royal Jordanian. Royal Jordanian, I give you just an experience, established the first business aviation company, Arab Wings, in 1974. But when Royal Jordanian decided to go into privatization, the first thing the consultant said, hey guys, forget all this, focus on your core business. You are a scheduled airline. Your job is to serve passengers from A to B on schedule. Don't disturb yourself with so many things. So the first thing, sell Arab Wings to private sector. I am confident in the long term, Saudi, Qatar Airways, and the rest will do the same.
Separating. Josh, what's your view on this? I know maybe in the US and Europe, it's not the case where many major airlines venture into the private aviation area.
Yeah, well, this is on. First, I'm amazed by the experience on the panel. You set up Arab Wings in 1974, and I was just born. So I defer to your experience. But yes, I agree with the other panelists. There's positive and negatives. I mean, it's happened in the US with Delta private jets. They've been around for 20, 25 years. It hasn't eroded the market. No other airlines have gone into it. In Europe, it's tried with Lufthansa and NetJets. Swiss Airlines tried it unsuccessfully. So I think initially it gives the airlines in the Middle East have tremendous brand awareness. So that is a helpful thing for business aviation. It probably widens the catchment area, promotes business aviation initially. But in the long term, I do agree. There's not the flexibility. The charter operators can provide much more flexible, tailored solutions. And it's a very different business model to what the airlines are used to. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
So basically, I see sort of an agreement that in the short term, it's good for the general aviation business that the major airlines are getting into this. But in the long term, how would you envision handling such a situation since it's going to start getting more and more difficult if the airlines succeed and maintain this line of business? Mr. Hamdan.
I think in the long term, the commercial airlines who established their business aviation arms, they will find out that they have to leave this business and focus on their core business. Maybe at the time when business aviation companies are either not available in certain markets or they are so small and fragmented, These airlines, they come and introduce their business aviation companies. But they will not leave a strong impression in the market, I tell you, because their mindset is not focused on the business aviation. Their mindset is focused on how they extend their scheduled network, how they become big airlines, and so on. So at one day, they will realize this, especially when these airlines, or some of them, they are talking about privatization. Privatization means efficiency. If you want efficiency, you cannot be jack of all trades. You have to focus. You are a scheduled airline, so be scheduled airline. Don't be a scheduled airline and unscheduled airline and everything at the same time. Otherwise, you will not be efficient. So when we come to efficiency and put aside this big resources available for the time being on the side, then you will realize that efficiency means that you stay as an airline and give this business to the right people.
So basically, focus on your main
Core business.
and leave the general aviation to.
Yeah. I hope my words will not disappoint some people around, but I'm trying to be frank
More
and
realistic about
straightforward,
yes.
and this is the norms of business in the world.
This leads me into another question. Josh, being a pilot, how do you see the situation with pilots in the general aviation? Because it goes up and down, and I believe the business keeps facing a shortage of pilots for your areas.
Yeah, well, I think this is a big, massive, looming problem globally. This is not region specific, this is a global issue. I mean, in the US, the new requirements came in for first officers only this year, so it's now a higher requirement, 1,500 hours in an ATP to be in the right seat versus 250 hours. So, you know, we've been through a global recession, there was retrenchments and layoffs, and things were looking okay. But as we go forward with the growth rates that were shown earlier in the WingX, there's going to be a doubling of the private jets in this region. There's already a